बोल इंडिया में आपका स्वागत है। मैं हूं इरफान और आज बोल इंडिया की इस बातचीत में हमारे साथ हैं हैदराबाद में मौजूद प्रिंटिंग प्रेस श्रव्या ग्राफिक्स के मालिक ऋत्विक रेड्डी, जो कि पिछले करीब 10 वर्षों से इस कारोबार में लगे हुए हैं। ऋत्विक एक शौकिया रॉक क्लाइंबर भी हैं और पिछले 10 वर्षों से ही उनका ये सफर जारी है। बतौर रॉक क्लाइंबर ऋत्विक ने रॉक्स के बनने, उनकी खूबसूरती और उसकी पारिस्थितिकी यानी इकोलॉजी में उनके कंट्रीब्यूशन को गहराई से समझा है और यही वजह है कि वो हैदराबाद शहर और उसके आसपास के इलाकों की चट्टानों के लिए बेचैन रहते हैं और उनको बचाने के मिशन पर एक्टिव हैं। रॉक क्लाइंबर होने के साथ साथ ऋत्विक एक कुशल स्कूबा डाइवर भी हैं। इसके अलावा वो काइट सर्फिंग के भी माहिर हैं। बहुत बहुत स्वागत है ऋत्विक आपका शो में।
Thank you. Is it okay if I speak in English?
या प्लीज गो अहेड।
Fine.
I mean, you can start in a few words in Hindi and switch over to whichever language you want.
Uh,
तो ऋत्विक हमको ये बताइए कि रॉक क्लाइंबिंग करते हुए जो आपने दुनिया देखी रॉक्स की, और हम सभी लोग ये बात जानते हैं कि रॉक्स का जो रोल है हमारी, चाहे वो आ, हमारे फ्लोरा फौना के हैबिटेट होने को लेकर, कि हमारे रॉक्स जो हैं वो हमारे बहुत स्पेशल जो हमारा फ्लोरा फौना है उसका वो घर है एक तरह से। इसके ये रॉक्स जहाँ बहुत तरह की डाइवर्सिटी पनपती और रहती है, उसमें कीड़े मकोड़े हैं, उसमें बहुत सारे प्लांट्स हैं, पौधे हैं। इसके अलावा बायोडाइवर्सिटी में उसका बड़ा रोल है और सॉइल इरोजन में भी चट्टानों ने काफी बड़ा रोल निभाया है। फिर वाटर क्वालिटी को भी कंट्रोल करने में रॉक्स अपना एक रोल निभाती हैं। उन एक तरह से वो नेचुरल फिल्टर का भी काम करती हैं, जहां तक मैं समझता हूँ। इसके अलावा जो उसका कल्चरल सिग्निफिकेंस है वो किसी से छुपा नहीं है कि आप किसी पहाड़ी, किसी चट्टान का नाम लेकर या उसके साथ जो रिचुअल्स और फेथ के मामले जुड़े हुए हैं वो सब तो अपनी जगह पर ही हैं। इसके अलावा जो क्लाइमेट रेगुलेशन है उसमें भी कुछ खास तरह की चट्टानें कुछ खास तरह का रोल निभाती हैं। मसलन जहां लाइमस्टोन होगा वहां शायद कार्बन की रिसाइकलिंग बड़ी आसानी से हो जाती है। ये सब का बातें अगर हम ध्यान में रखें और आपसे ये पूछें कि हैदराबाद के जो हेरिटेज रॉक्स हैं उनमें खासकर फखरुद्दीन गुट्टा में जो रॉक्स को प्रोटेक्शन जो नहीं दिया जा सका है, तो इसको बचाने के लिए सरकारें आमतौर पर लापरवाह रही हैं। आपका क्या कहना है? व्हाट इज योर टेक ऑन दिस गवर्नमेंट्स पोजीशन एंड देयर एफर्ट्स टू प्रिजर्व द रॉक्स?
so this has actually been a very long journey. It was started much before I even joined. Proke from Society to Save the Rocks. She started working on this over, I think, 20 years ago. So the sad part is that they were actually given the protection that they deserved. They were included in the heritage list to be protected under the heritage laws. But when the new government came into power, the entire heritage law itself was scrapped. And of course, the court came in later on and said that this cannot be done. So they put the heritage law back. But in the new law, rocks were not included. Only heritage buildings were included. So despite having had the protection, they were currently not protected. So that was a big blow for us. Since then, we've been trying to so we already have a court case going on and PIL, and the primary purpose of it is to have the rocks added back into the heritage list so that they'll be given the same protection as they were before. Actually, more, because despite having protection on paper, on ground, they weren't really protected, as we've seen what has happened with Durgam Charu and even Khajaguda now. So I think it's very important to have a regulatory body on ground rather than just on paper.
But if you see the previous government's approach towards conserving and protecting rocks, what was their efforts in comparison to the today's government?
Personally, I cannot give much input because I wasn't involved in the conservation efforts back then. But from what I've heard from Froke and from what I've seen currently, there is quite a bit of difference. but I think it's primarily because of the real estate development which has happened. Before, they were more willing to protect these places because the land value was not as much. Now it is literally in the hundreds of crores. At least the Khajagoda area will easily go into thousands of crores because of the massive chunk of land that is. So on every side, it has. I mean, there are multiple factors which are affecting Khajagoda, and all of them are, deeply involved with like a lot of money from private real estate people. There is um, even the government. I think it would be more beneficial for the government to either sell the land or develop it in some other way. So that's why they're probably not as inclined as they were before to try and protect the rock areas.
Is there any particular agency who is involved in protecting and conserving these rocks you are heading
Yes.
to
So
that?
initially it was the heritage department, but that no longer exists. So the court has asked HMDA and GHMC to take this land into their um, into their purview, and they are the ones who are supposed to be protecting this area. But primarily, the responsibility has fallen to HMDA.
Okay. And when we keep the Hyderabad city and Telangana rocks strategic position, how these officers and the policymakers are making mistakes?
That's an interesting question. So actually, we have had a lot of support, specifically from Mr. Arvind Kumar. He has helped us a lot. He was the one who intervened and moved things along so that we have at least the little protection that we have now. Uh, but despite his word to help protect, on ground, a lot of things are happening, and it's very difficult to have him involved in every little thing on ground when it's happening. So while some of the leaders are definitely good, who are helpful, who are genuinely trying to protect the place, there are 10 times as many people who are, more than anything, they're very nonchalant. It's not very, they're not personally attached to the issue. And it's, of course, a lot of money is also involved. So that is a more lucrative thing. So yeah, I think there is a little bit of pros and cons. Like few people are helping, few people are not. But we definitely need more people, more policymakers to be involved in this.
Apart from these policymakers or the administrators or the officers, what is the position or the sensitization level of people who are affected with all these destruction and the changes? I mean, how people react when you sensitize them on this issue?
Uh, People, when it comes to rocks, I feel are still largely ignorant about the role that they play, because mostly trees and environmentalists, they mostly focus on trees, lakes, but rocks don't get the kind of attention that they deserve because um, in general, people are not aware how rocks can actually affect the ecosystem. And once they are sensitized, then yes, they do. It's an eye opener, and they also, a lot of people have joined and helped us in the protests, in the social media campaign, and we've got a tremendous support from everyone. But overall, I would say not many people are aware about the role that rocks play.
Could you just enlighten me in during past 10 years how these policies have ruined or I mean affecting these rock culture and rock thing overall?
I think the last 10 years, not even 10, maybe the last 5 years have been a really a bad period for all the rocks, especially in and around Hyderabad. Most of the development has happened in these 10 years. And I've been living in the Gachibowli area from, I think, 13, 14 years. And the changes which happened right in front of me were devastating. It was complete entire skyline landscape of the entire area has changed. We've lost so many different areas to development, not just in the Gachibowli area, but on all sides of the city, whether we're going towards the Warangal side or Shamirpet area, we've lost huge entire hills have been completely flattened. Recently, the new Neopolis, which has come up, that was a beautiful hill. The entire thing is completely different from what it was even like 2 years ago.
हम्म। और ये जो चट्टानों में को जो HMDA एक्ट और जो हेरिटेज लिस्ट में शामिल होने की वजह से जो कुछ चट्टानों को प्रोटेक्शन मिला हुआ था, लेकिन फिर भी जो दुर्गम चेरुवु और या राय दुर्गम, इन्हें उस लिस्ट से हटा दिया गया, गायब कर दिया गया। तो मौजूदा जो चट्टानें अभी हैं हमारे पास, उनके प्रोटेक्शन के लिए क्या किया जा सकता है या क्या किया जाना चाहिए?
So for Khajaguda, we've been struggling a lot from the last 4 5 years. We are kind of reacting to every issue. Every time there is a problem coming up, we have to keep running around government offices. We have to keep meeting people. We have to keep giving representations. We have to again put up a contempt of court in when in the legal aspect. And there are literally 20 different things we are doing for Khajaguda. And we don't want to be doing that for every different place that we want to save, including whatever is left of Durgam Charu or Raidurgam. So we are trying to push it on a policy level so that not just Raidurgam or Durgam Charu or Khajaguda get the protection, but all the places in and around Hyderabad where these rock sites are, they need to be protected in the same way. And we are trying to do that by first getting the legal backing and then trying to have more public support and then actually get some policies done so that we can conserve them in a better way. We already, like I said, we already have it in the court. The court has actually already asked the government to the court has told the government that these rocks are a part of our heritage. They need to be protected. And they asked the government if they have a plan to protect it. If not, they should come up with a plan. However, it's been, I think, 2 years and there's no response from the government. So we are now coming up with our own plan to try and maybe submit it in court in absence of a plan from the government. How it is important to save these places, how it is necessary, and not just from a heritage or ecological point of view, but even economically, how it can be viable for the government to invest in these places. For example, we have places like Hampi and Badami, which are very remote, inaccessible, but they have a huge foreign crowd coming in just for rock climbing because it's very popular on international scale for rock climbing. Hyderabad, being such a well-connected city, can definitely be easily 10 times as popular as these places for rock climbing. And if we protect and develop these places for adventure sports like rock climbing, especially now that it's a Olympic level sport, I think it can definitely work out. Even the government will not feel the pinch, say, financially when they're trying to conserve these places.
Okay, fine. So we see whenever a city is being expanded or some construction plan is there, we take care of trees and heritage buildings and water bodies. But since when it comes to the rocks, is there any provision to legally address all these issues or not?
As far as I'm aware, there is nothing like that. In fact, rocks are the first ones to get destroyed because, from what I've heard, there is no sand available in Telangana for construction. So rocks are crushed, and that dust is used for construction material in Telangana. So that's why the rocks um, in and around the city are being broken down because of the rapid rate of construction and development in the city. They need the raw material for the construction. But definitely we need to protect these places, and we can actually get a lot of these policies. And more than that, the need or the necessity to save these, once we understand that, I think then everything will fall into place. There are already different policies set in different places that we can just adopt. We don't even have to come up with something new. And we can put it in place to kind of protect all these areas. We can definitely development is important, but we need to do it in such a way that we don't regret it in the future, or we'll go the same way, say, as Delhi, where the pollution is off the charts. People are falling sick every winter. If we continue developing this way without caring about the ecological damage, we're going to end up the same way as the people in Delhi have.
So, is it the same reason because of these Sangita Hills and Pirancheru rocks were, I mean, removed and displaced?
Those Pirancheru, I'm a little bit aware of. Actually, most of these areas, now that I've started working on protecting Kajagoda, I've understood that actually a lot of these areas are government lands which are slowly encroached by private parties, either by expanding their existing boundary lines by changing the maps a little bit, or bribing the authorities, the revenue department, however it is. Eventually, they end up taking up more land than they actually own, and slowly that's how it happens.
So,
Pirancheru actually is also in our list of protected areas, uh, but the court hasn't actually passed an order about the rest of the places, only about Kajagoda, because that's right in the center, and there was a more immediate need for protection over there.
so at the end of the conversation, I would, I mean, like to know what was the early impressions of your rock climbing uh, period. I mean, when you started rock climbing, what motivated you to uh, to voluntarily be involved in the conservation and protection of rocks?
So when I started climbing almost 9-10 years ago, I first started in Kajagoda, and it was drastically different from what it is today. It was completely wild. There was no road going up the hill. We would have to hike up to reach the top, and then we would start climbing. We would carry all our climbing gear and go up. There were peacocks everywhere. There were monkeys. People or the villagers would come and lay traps to catch wild rabbits. There were snakes going around, and it was like an actual wild place in the middle of the city. But now, if you've been there, you know it's completely different. There's a huge road. There are huge areas which have been filled, and there are a couple of buildings up there as well now. And it's no longer a wild place. People come in the night to party and booze, and it's full of trash, and it is nothing like the place it was 10 years ago. And seeing that happen right in front of my eyes was a little painful to watch. And I wanted to do whatever I could to help preserve the um, place like how it was before. And as climbers, so whenever in rock climbing, a person climbs a rock for the first time, they get to name the rock. So every rock in Kajagoda is named, and that we have a more personal connection to the rocks because of this. So every time a rock was broken or it was covered up by a landfill, it hurt the entire climbing community, and we wanted to do something as a group to help maintain and conserve the place, and that's how I got into the conservation aspect of it.
To sensitize more and more people, what kind of efforts you think should be made to reach this concern to the larger people?
We have already been doing that to whatever capacity we can in multiple ways. I am part of a rock climbing community called the Hyderabad Climbers. And from many years, we've been doing climbing meetups every weekend, and we get a lot of people. We expose them to climbing, and in the process, we also expose them to the um, you know necessity of saving these spaces. Society to Save Rocks, they also conduct rock walks every month. They conduct regular workshops on rock conservation. And we also have the movie, The Other Kohinoors, which has been doing fantastic. And they have been doing a great job in educating everyone about the necessity of protecting these rocks. But I think continuing that, I think including rocks and their importance on ecology at a school level will also really help everyone get a better understanding about rocks.
Since the whole thing being distorted by the private builders. I mean, the people who are involved in construction, and huge money is there, and the power, and the constructors are making a nexus to proceed. So, in that condition, the only thing which can be, I mean, readdressed is the elections and the legislature making. And since the elections are just going to be happen in near future. So how do you think the new government can be a hope for rocks?
Um, I feel like irrespective of who will win the election, because this is not something that is an agenda for a particular party. It should be the agenda for whoever is in power. That conserving our nature, conserving the ecology, is a very important aspect of development. Otherwise, it will not be sustainable in any way. So whoever wins the elections, um, it is very important that they take this as a priority, or at least include it in the development plan for Hyderabad. So yeah, honestly, it doesn't matter who wins. Whoever wins needs to make sure that this happens.
Thank you. Thank you, Ritwik Reddy, for coming to the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
बॉल इंडिया में आज हमारे साथ थे स्कूबा डाइवर और काइट सर्फर, इसके अलावा क्लाइंबर, रॉक क्लाइंबर ऋत्विक रेड्डी, जो कि खुद हैदराबाद में जो मौजूद रॉक्स हैं उनके प्रिजर्वेशन कंजर्वेशन के लिए एक मिशन पर निकले हुए हैं। देखते रहिए बॉल इंडिया। मिलेंगे अगले मेहमान के साथ जल्दी।